here we go. You can keep talking.
No.
Just
another person that I didn't ever get to know very quite well, but I like her when I met her. Nice person.
And welcome everyone to the Mechanics Institute. We are back here at noon Pacific San Francisco time from the Mechanics Institute. I'm Abel Talamantes, chess director. Joining me again, the crew from round 7, Grandmaster Nick DeFermian, International Master John Donaldson, and FIDE Master Paul Whitehead. And we are in round 8 of 9 of the 2020-2021 Pan American Intercollegiate Championship. And after 7 rounds, and the 7th round was certainly lots of action, probably the most exciting round of the tournament, where we saw Webster University, who was 6 out of 6, go down into defeat to the University of Texas Rio Grande A team. So they've narrowed the lead, but Webster Team A still leads with 6 out of 7. But now we have 4 teams at 5.5, including St. Louis University Team A, Missouri Team A, UT Rio Grande Valley Team A, and University of Texas at Dallas Team C, all with 5.5. And a lot of teams at 5, but the top 5 out of 7 score on tie breaks is UC Berkeley's Team A. So a lot of action in this round. And in the pairings, we see St. Louis University Team A against the top board is University of Texas at Dallas Team C is playing Webster University. So you're watching board 1, Lázaro Bruzón Batista for Webster against Grandmaster Carlos Antonio Alejano for UT Dallas Team C at the top table.
So is this another sort of ready Catalan thing here?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's not a Catalan yet because White hasn't played D4. And usually people put this setup as White as opposed to a straight Catalan because they want to avoid some of the very sharp lines that White can play in the Catalan, or Black can, I should say, where Black takes on C4 and, on move 4. And he has all sorts of sharp options with trying to hang on to the pawn or playing knight C6 and rook B8 and D5. So instead you get this setup, and White's deferred playing D4, which Black will be ready with rook c8 at the appropriate time. Somehow this treatment White's played, he put his queen on c2, so I didn't see the opening sequence, but it looks like Black has, I would say, a pretty comfortable position.
I was looking at some ready openings for some reason not long ago, and Aronian has played quite a bit with very good results.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why it's popular is it isn't such forcing play as E4 and D4, and he's come up with a lot of original ideas, and so with opening theory being what it is today, it's a little bit fresher maybe than some of the other opening setups, and it doesn't mean because White's adopted a more modest opening that he isn't willing to go for a full-fledged battle. It'll just be a little bit later. It won't be such direct, in the initial stage of the game. But looking at this, something's gone a little bit wrong for White. And, this sort of position, Black looks like he's already grabbed some space on the queen side. And, White's played A4 to try to chip away at that wedge, but Black supported it. There's no tricks on the long diagonal. The danger for White is that if he ends up like just fianchettoing his queen bishop and playing D3, he might just end up in a position that, Black will eventually prepare C5, and Black will just have a very, very comfortable position with more space on the queen side. And White will sort of have surrendered the advantage of the first move. I would say Batista's doing very well, and I think that's reflected by the situation in the clock where White is, he realizes he needs to come up with a plan now. If he doesn't, he's just going to drift and drift and get into a worse position. I mean, I think right now it's still probably within a bounds of objectively equal, but easier to play for black. He knows what, you know, he's going to play bishop e7 and castle and then move his queen and then eventually play c5. All very natural moves. If white plays d4, later on black's going to play c5 and that rook on c8 is going to look really good against the queen on c2.
And Bali 1331 is in the chat, loving the ready because says knight f3 is so good because it's versatile and basically
Kramnik is the other top ready player, you know, or at least was.
Yeah, well, I can tell you there's been a whole slew of books recently on this. There's one by Demuth, French grandmaster. It's like, you know, 400 pages. There's one by Sam Collins that just dealt with knight f3, 5 and then c4 or g3. I mean, there's a lot of books coming out on an opening that's not supposed to be that theoretical. So you might wonder this mysterious rook move, rook d1. He's anticipating c5, you know, I guess to you know, he wants to play d4 and make c5 less effective with the rook on d1 against the queen on d8. But this, I don't see big problems for black here. I think
it's tit for tat, right? You put your rook opposite my queen, I'll put my rook opposite your queen. So
yeah,
there, you know.
Yeah, but I still think, you know, Batista, look at his time. He's hardly spent over maybe like a little over a minute out of the opening so far. So I think he's feeling pretty good about this.
It's such a tough game the last round though, and he's got black again.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
That's one thing I should mention about team tournaments as opposed to individual ones. In individual tournaments, you expect the colors to alternate pretty faithfully, and you know, not always, but most of the time. In team tournaments, I don't know what the particular pairing mechanism is, but oftentimes colors are really not that critical because every team will get whites and two blacks.
Right.
And usually they have a reserve player, so players are going in and out. So, you know, it's up to the captain and the players to sort of work out like what's an acceptable.
Have you ever found, like, you know, in some Olympiad, Nick, that you ended up playing like, you know, 6 blacks and 2 whites or something like that?
Oh yes, especially in the beginning where, you know, I wanted to play every game, and some of the older players back then, they only wanted to play with the white pieces.
Only. And this is board 4 on this matchup on the top table. This is Alex Lenderman for Webster against Cameron Wheeler.
Oh
Right.
my God.
For
Great matchup.
UT
Right,
Dallas.
and we can tell immediately what opening this came from. This is would not be a surprise for Cameron, I don't think. It's an exchange Slav.
Correct.
And an opening that Alex Linderman has been playing a lot in the online play. I played him in a Blitz tournament where he played this against me as white. And it's, you know, white's just trying to prove that first move advantage in the symmetrical position. Cameron's adopted to sit, I don't know the exact move order, but most likely he played e6, it looks like, and then light squared bishop locked inside. And so this is one of the treatments that you can play as black. The advantage of playing e6 and leaving the bishop locked in is that white doesn't have any early tricks. I mean, because you're sort of breaking the symmetry. And but the disadvantage, of course, is that bishop is locked in on d7. You know, sometimes they even play b5 and bishop b7. But this should be a little better for white. The black setup's very solid, and I think with queen d8, his idea is to go rook f d8, maybe bishop e8. I'm not sure. But, you know, one thing, I mean, besides the light squared bishop advantage for white, you can look at the bishop on d3 against the bishop on d7. White's queen has a little more reliable, comfortable square here on e2. So I mean, I tend to think that white has a little bit of an advantage here. And also, Alex is really, I mean, like I said before, I don't think there's anybody that has had more practice at this time control. All right, so here we go. Cameron is going for b5, b4. That's his plan. And it helps him that white will not be able to meet b4 with like knight a4 to go to c5 because he doesn't control the a4 square. So this is, black wants his concrete play before white, goes knight e5 and bishop b1 and queen d3 and tries to set up some sort of battery on the king side. So this should be an interesting fight. And knight e5 is a typical move in these positions. White's hoping black will take, and he might take with a pawn and then get the knight removed from f6 so that you can try to attack the weakened king formation. h6 is kind of a funny move in these positions. I'm not sure exactly why black played that, but Cameron's going for a setup. He's going to play rook fd8, then he's going to play bishop e8. And the idea for that setup, for those of you that have not seen it before, is that by bringing the rook to d8 first and then playing bishop e8, he makes sure that the rook's able to play a role in what's happening in the game. And bishop e8, the idea is that the bishop gets out of the way for the rook, but it also fortifies the defense of f7.
And then we're going to take a look at the board 2 matchup in this match between Webster and UT Dallas C team, with Benjamin Gladura for Webster against David Brodsky for black.
Well,
another ready.
It is another, or yeah, it looks like it must have come from that. And one last thing I should say, look at this is UTDC and Cameron's playing on board 4.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the C team, so UTD, University of Texas at Dallas, they really have a lot of depth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and the other teams are right behind, not far back.
So here, we've got some sort of a hedgehog. I mean, Nick was a really great hedgehog player in the day. One idea for white is he's not put a pawn on e4, and if black plays queen b7 check, white might want to play queen f3 to trade off the queens, and that might seem a little counterintuitive because you might think, well, white has more space, don't trade queens, but trading queens means that white can, for example, expand on the king side with his pawns without the potential drawbacks that would occur if the queens were on the board. So this is a kind of typical position. Maybe white's tiny bit better, maybe it's equal, but I remember the late Victor Frias telling me, how much he liked to play these sort of positions for black. They're very flexible. You could play it for a win. And, he was a really good psychologist, probably one of the strongest American players never to become a GM. He was over 200 FIDE, and he always used to know how to keep the tension to the right moment. And then it would get both players would start to get low on time, and then he would really come into his element and really milk the position for all it was worth. So it'll be interesting to hear, black's trying to play for b5 or for d5, and white's trying to slowly consolidate his space advantage.
And we're going to take a look at board 3 with Grandmaster Angel Arribas Lopez for Dallas and Grandmaster Aram Hakobian for Webster.
Well, now Hakobian wasn't he the one that lost to Belus the last round?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so he's another one of those guys. This is interesting. I assume the teams are they allowed to have 5 players on their roster?
Yes, they can have a substitute ready.
Okay, but Coach Susan's like, I'm running my main guys. I'm not making any substitutions.
Right. And Hakobian's been through a lot. I mean, he ground out that game in the loss, but yesterday he was the hero in one of the matches, coming up big and clinching the win.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
One thing I should say about Hakobian is if you look at his name and you chop off the S, you get a Hakobian. But this is the same name as Varajan Hakobian.
Right.
Right.
It's just it's like the Kochians and the Hachians and the Hakobians and the Hakobians. They're all the same. They're just transliterated into English. Whoever did it, did it slightly differently. So the Hakobian is a good chess name to have.
I got to flip to this game real quick that I'm following. This is from the UC Berkeley B team. White is a Shrita Swaran against international master Felix Hinojosa.
Right, who I think he's from Venezuela, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that looks like the flag. Yep, that is correct.
Which, for a country that has had like, incredible hardships, they've produced like some really good chess players. I mean, Tirazagata is like 2660, and this guy's like, respectable, decent IM. So, some good things happening there.
White has to be careful here.
Well,
King H1 would push that bishop away.
Right, where's he going to?
Well, on rook d8, the queen has to go to a3, which is kind of out of the game.
There must be some tricky tactic here.
I mean, it looks dangerous for White, but White's winning a piece. So
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
okay, so, I mean,
And it's been played.
so the question is, I mean, you would expect rook to d8. Maybe the a rook just to keep the other one on the f line, just in case. But after queen to a3, I mean, there are various knight moves to d4, but what do they do concretely?
Exactly. Where's the
where's the beef?
shot?
Yeah, that knight on e3 is covering a lot of ground. Okay, so now I think queen
Position.
more or less forced. A legal move. I mean, is there? Nope. If you have to play quickly. And now let's see what black,
I don't see it here. There must be a really imaginative shot.
Maybe just rook d2 and knight f4 or something. I don't know.
oh no, takes. Okay, so takes here. All right, so knight takes g2. And now, and that was played instantly by black. Okay, so threatening knight, well, I don't know, knight c2 and is a threat, but I mean, the two pieces will definitely be better than the rook here. So it is White's move. Is there another threat besides that? I mean,
It's
that
all a
rook,
bit nebulous, isn't it?
well, one thinks that, with careful defense, White should be fine here. I mean, a natural move would be like bringing the rook to the d file, maybe, or
Yes, that's
Yeah.
and then what does black do?
Tries to get another pawn back somehow. I agree. This is not convincing.
And let me switch to the top board on table 2, and that is the match between St. Louis University and Missouri. Look at this position. This is Mikhail Antipov.
okay, so here we've got Antipov, is from Russia, strong 2600 plus grandmaster, and black's a rather interesting player, Alexander Ipatov. He's originally from Ukraine, but moved at a relatively young age to Turkey and became Turkey's #1. And he got up to I want to say he's close to using the top 100 players in the world, maybe around 2650. But he was taking his schooling pretty seriously. I think he got a business degree or is working on one, and hasn't played as much, but he's written several very good opening books. They're very original, very stimulating books on opening theory. Not so easy to do these days. But I don't know how much time he has to work on his own chess. And this looks like it came from a Tory attack, if I had to say. Or, guys,
It says King's Pawn opening, O in defense. 2D.
okay, all right,
That makes
E4,
sense.
B6. Yeah, that does make sense. It's sort of black adopted a double fiend shadow, and this is kind of consistent with some of the offerings in Ipatov's opening. His ideas were more like one-off openings you could play or openings to avoid opponent's preparation. And it looks like, probably he hasn't, with his academic load, he hasn't had the opportunity to keep super up to date on opening theories. So he's decided, and also because of this time control, to play something a little more experimental. But
so you're saying he's a Duncan Suttles of his day?
well, I don't know so much that, I mean, he played more mainline stuff in the past, but he definitely is more of an experimenter than a lot of other grandmasters. And
Right.
mentioned that Alejandro Ramirez is the coach at SLU, that is at Seattle, St. Louis University. But Missouri also has, I think they have Chirilla.
In Missouri. Yeah.
Yes, and he used to live in the Bay Area. He played in a lot of mechanics, usually in the Blitz tournaments and stuff like that. So so both these teams are very well coached.
And it is his birthday today. So happy birthday to Christian Kurilla.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's all these players now that are, very strong and not that old, but a lot of them have started, to go into coaching earlier and, things of that nature, just because, unless you're like 2,700 these days, I think, or, it just doesn't,
Right.
you're not going to be able to earn a living from winning prize money. You're going to have to.
Well, John, I was wondering why. What about the the top players that are having these tournaments? Shouldn't they sort of open the tent up a little bit more for the players closer to them, like Shankland? And Sam was complaining that he didn't have any events to play in.
Well, see, that's the thing. When I mean, the guys who have always done really well are the players that are rated, in the top 10 to 15 in the world. That's really the sweet spot where all the invitations come from, and indeed they do really, really well. The players like in Sam's, rating, and all right, now he's 2690, but he's been up to 2730. But even when he was in 2730, he wasn't in the top 20, in top 15, and as a result, invitations are not that easy to come by. There are only so many spots for round robin tournaments, and a lot of those guys, they tend to play a lot in leagues, because they make good first boards for a lot of teams, and there's a lot of leagues out there. But with this pandemic, of course, I mean, that's not the case. So what do we have here?
Yeah, Abel, this is a great game you put up.
Yeah. Looked interesting.
Right. Oh, it does. Well, it looks like there's a game that I remember that Bruce Harper lost to Robert Zook, and they called it the Immortal Tomb game because White was completely, imprisoned inside its position. And this looks like a worthy sequel to the Tomb game because, I mean, look at White's bishop and rook. They're just like, they're under house arrest, and rook F1's threatened. And I mean, that queen on D3 is just like a bone in White's throat.
It looks like it's over.
It does indeed. Well, Jacobian, this is a nice way for him to bounce back from his loss in the previous game. And
so what if King E1?
So how about bishop check and bishop G3?
Yeah.
Could we see the moves previous to this? Abel?
Actually, bishop check.
Right.
You can go back to D1.
You want me to go?
Right, and then
you want me to go back a
then-
few moves? Or?
yeah, okay.
Yes.
So,
Bishop, then bishop to G3. It would have been.
Yeah.
so like
but-
here, this was the position. Back further or from here?
Okay, yeah, one move back. It's Okay.
So
Yeah, this 94, nice move.
the game just ended.
Yeah, White has no development. This is a good example of strategic immobility.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Right there, and that's
Nice.
24 moves. Big win and nice comeback for Aram Jacobian from the last round, delivering the point for Webster.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But just going back so that we see how we got here, because we were going through that.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see the opening even.
Yeah, let's flip through from the beginning and just go through it really quick. It was from a Sicilian.
Right. Well, one thing it shows you is, White's an extremely strong player, and for this to happen, okay, so this is like,
Oh, it's nice to see this get punished.
right.
Wow, you can see.
So
Yeah, I mean,
it's to play C3 later and to undermine the center. So D5.
Black seems to have this well thought out. There's hardly much
Yeah.
time being used.
Right. Look at those black pieces are coming out quickly.
Yeah, springing out.
D4 was a little much.
Yeah, G4 looks like it was wrong. I mean, but yeah. This is,
Ooh, C3.
really, oh yeah.
That was probably
Oh.
bad.
That's
The problem,
pretty
this is-
greedy.
Yeah, but this is one of those positions where, the commentator says, he gives a question mark. He says, but I can't think of anything constructive to offer as a better
But
choice.
look at this bishop check. Nice move.
Yes.
Great move.
Yeah,
If it takes Queen G3 check, Queen D2, Rook takes F1, King takes F1, Rook F1, King G1, Queen E1 check, King H2, Rook F2 wins the Queen.
Nice.
Very
and
nice.
and even
Yeah.
though White has a rook and a bishop at the end, they're completely out of play.
Yes.
To be the king by itself. Yep.
Obviously, White overlooked this move.
Look at that move.
Crime and punishment.
Look at that.
Queen D3, what a great
Yeah,
shot.
that is
Yeah.
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful game.
Nice. Very nice.
Nice win for Jacobian on board 3.
Yeah, a good game for like a good teaching game.
Yeah.
And we're back to board 2 in this match with Gledura against Brodsky.
So here, White has accepted the. How did the pawns get doubled on the F line?
The queens got exchanged on the.
Well, the queen. Oh, and he played. He takes F3. That's how it happened. And F4. So this structure, the double pawns are really not a handicap for White. He's, the pawn in F4 does a good job of providing influence in the center, and White can try to play like H3 and G4 here and G5, but Black's position's very resilient.
Is White going to try to play some radical idea like B5 and Knight C6? It could happen, but probably
It could,
not.
but you give a square on C5. It's
Yeah.
possible, but
Not yet.
First, White tries to gain some space on the king side with H3 and G4, just to
But,
ramp the
if-
Black.
If Black goes D5, is that just going to equalize everything?
Yeah, that's what I would think. That's the question I would wonder too. I mean, how is White planning to respond to meet to that? I mean,
Wow.
White does get to C6 square eventually, but it doesn't. After D5 takes, the knight has to come back to C2, and yeah, you would think that Black is equal here.
And there it goes.
But the thing is, for Gledura, since his team's up a game, a draw is not hardly the end of the world.
And we're going to take a look at the second table because like all the games in the St. Louis, Missouri match have something going on. Starting here with Antipov and Ipatov.
Oh, yeah.
The fur's flying.
And
Black has a Petrosian king at C6.
Antipov is with Missouri. And Ipatov with
So
St. Louis.
Black must be trying to make Rook A1 and Queen H7 work or something like that.
What about Queen H7 right now? Oh, it's check.
Check, king up, Queen H7. Can Black end up winning the C4 pawn? Oh, White's taking on D5 with check.
Yes, if Queen H7, pawn takes D5 check, pawn takes D5, Rook A1 check is quite a threat.
Yeah.
And you also then have knight C4 coming up. So very interesting piece sacrifice.
Although, can he defend with bishop c3? I wonder.
Well, rook
Or
check.
maybe you. Oh no, you have. You're right.
D2.
You have rook check and knight mate, or force him to give up his queen. Yeah, yeah. So there's no square on D2 for the king. Well, Hippolyte taking his time here in critical position.
And yeah, go ahead.
Queen e7, queen e4. You can just trade queens and take on c4, and then black has a clear positional advantage.
You know, these fellas that are playing, their names are almost like echoes of each other. Antipov and Ipatov.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
And here's the second board in this match with Grandmaster Benjamin Bach and Grandmaster Dmitry Gordievsky. Gordievsky from Missouri.
Right, and Bach, of course, is from the Netherlands, and Gordievsky, as you might guess from the name, is from Russia. Bach's, a member of their Olympiad team. He's like, 2,600 plus feet. And Gordievsky is like a young, rising, Russian talent.
Is black sacrificing a pawn here, though?
On B5?
Yeah. Or maybe queen a5 is coming.
Yeah, it looks like there's queen a5 at some point.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it couldn't get more tense than this.
Yeah, look at the pawn structure.
Yeah. Everything is,
It's about
all white needs to do is play pawn e4 here, and
So I think the question is, black's threatening b4. Black's got the possible idea of playing c4. So what should white do here? If that pawn were back on f2, white could treat it as an IQP position, but isolated queen pawn. But with a pawn in f4, that knight has to stay on e5, or white's position looks a little bit ugly.
yeah, I mean, white must have some concrete idea after taking on d5 like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do a check-in on board 4 in the top table with Cameron Wheeler and Alexander Lunderman.
Okay, it looks like in this game, I think white was thinking about maybe putting pressure on d5. Okay, so here the classic break with e4 has been played, and
Black's played pawn b5, b4.
mm-hmm. So he probably has to take back with a pawn, because otherwise there was problems with the knight on c4 hanging to knight a2.
5, knight d5. Can white chop on d5?
No, can't we take with the rook?
And then bishop takes c4.
Oh, you're right. Knight takes c4, then
Rook c4.
right. So you end up up.
But after knight d5, can we take with the knight threatening the bishop on f4?
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
And then the question is, can white conjure up something on the back rank or something? Rook c4.
You'd first play rook takes c4.
Yeah. Maybe not. So what's white's bailout move instead? Queen.
Bishop e5 he played.
Okay.
Oh, John, as you are such a devotee of the exchange slaw, how would you say Cameron has played this as black?
Well, it's I'm looking at this position. The only thing I'm a little bit nervous about is he doesn't have too many pieces by his king. His queenside plays develop very naturally and very strongly. The question will be,
Do you get mated or not?
right, I mean, I see queen g4 coming up soon, with the idea of maybe queen f5. I'm a little bit nervous because black's queen, I wish he had, like, if that knight on b6, if he had a knight on f8, one of the knights on f8, maybe keep the other one on b6.
What about knight takes e5 and bishop g5? But then, of course, or bishop g5 right away. No, not right away. And then there's always a knight d5 shot for white and complicated. Human beings want clarity in these situations.
Right, but I would say one thing. I mean, the variation that he played. I mean, if you want to try to equalize with black, playing bishop f5 on move 7 instead of playing e6 and locking it in, that's definitely the more challenging line for white to play to show an advantage. But it's also quite theoretical, and you need to have some very concrete knowledge. The line that Cameron played, you can play it more by feel. You don't have to worry about the early skirmishes in the opening.
And the other thing is, I mean, let's say long term you want to play for a win, keeping the bishop on the board might give you more.
Oh,
chance.
definitely, yeah. Because with bishop f5, you're basically just playing a very objective sort of chess and accepting the fact that you're a black draw. You can't go out of your way to avoid it. The line that Cameron played gave him chances for all three results.
Let me check in on board 1 in the Webster matchup here with Lázaro Bruzón Batista and Carlos Alejano against UT Dallas. And Alejano down to 3 minutes.
Right, so you can see that at some point white got d4 in and black got c5 in, and that led to a lot of simplification. In this position, white has the chance to get the bishop pair with knight takes c5, but after knight takes, I mean, I don't see any problems for black in this position at all. But after multiple trades on c5, you would think that white would be able to hold this position because, I mean, symmetrical pawn structure, and white doesn't have any pawn beyond the second rank. Oh, but knight c3 was played. Interesting. I wonder if queen b6 is just going to go back to a4.
Ah, yes.
Because here, like queen c6 sets the queen up on the battery, and there's knight e1 or things like of that nature. That's a good maneuver a lot of times for white, knight e1, because after the trade of bishops, the knight comes into play comfortably on d3. So I think knight a4, I think this might be they might be repeating moves. And again, remember that Webster's a game up from Jacobian's win.
That's right.
So black doesn't have to, black can play natural moves, whatever, the position calls for can be played. He doesn't have to.
And that's what looks like is happening here.
So, Mr. Team Captain, what would you tell your player if you were, Carlos Alejano, that you're behind by a game, you're down on time against a really strong player? Would you tell him you have to win?
Well, the key question all comes down to this last game from this match. Okay, the one we haven't seen, which must be this one.
No. Actually, it's this one. Let's go to it. It's with Gledura and Brodsky.
Oh, what about, where's this match, Repka and Thirodu?
That's where's, oops. Yeah, this was a Missouri-St. Louis matchup. It just looked a little wild, so I wanted to flip to it.
There's a lot of great games here.
But isn't Bach versus Gordusky, isn't that from this match?
Also correct, from the St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay, but that's very relevant to Nick's question, because as long as you have chances to win on another board and equalize the match, I think you have to be realistic. And what I mean by that is, White had no advantage and he was substantially lower on time and he's playing a high rated player. If you know, objectively a draw's, you know, a good result in that situation. And yes, you might like to, you have the white pieces, before the match, you might have hoped for more, but you didn't get it. So you just have to bite the bullet and take a draw there and hope that the other game where you are a little bit better, or at least the position's complicated, that offers more practical chances. Because if White had lost that game, instead of, you know, making the draw with knight c3 to a4 and knight back to c3, that would have just ended the match right there in terms of the score. So, you know, you have to be practical about these things. You know, you have to put yourself in a position where you have some realistic chances and not just, you know, say, oh, we're behind, I need to win, you know, and
Black's threatening rook h1 here, right? Or was threatening rook h1.
And knight h2.
Yep. So rook e2 is the answer.
Are we going to get a draw by?
No, what's wrong with queen d1 check?
And Lazaro, Bruzon, Batista did draw the game in the Webster match on board 1.
So queen d1 wins the exchange, right?
You're down an entire rook.
Oh, it's down. Okay, I'm not so good at counting these days. Okay, so yeah. So queen d1 is just winning on the spot. I mean, king g2, it's mate 1, and if
Well, what about rook e1?
can I go knight h2 check?
And then king f2?
And then oh, I see. Okay, all right. So check rook, check king f2, queen d4, king. No, then I have queen d4 check. Right? Queen d1, rook e1, knight h2, king f2, queen d4, and if queen e3, knight back to g4.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, this is not a big surprise. So here again, look at the player of white in this game is from Slovakia, and black is from Greece. I mean, I mentioned before, I mean, this is such an international competition.
And that was a good point that you brought up. I mean, the players from all over the world, literally.
Yeah, one of the reasons this is happening is that
What about king g2?
That
King G2
seems to work.
Queen H1.
Queen D1
No,
check.
after knight h2 check.
Oh, King G2 then. Okay. But doesn't that just leave the rook hanging? Oh, there's Queen F6 check though.
Yeah, white goes on the offensive then.
But check King H7, check King H6.
I guess knight f3 regains the whole rook, but then black is probably losing.
Mm-hmm. You know, one thing that's should become self-evident, there's a world-class team from Webster, a couple of them. There's like the first couple teams from St. Louis University are like incredibly strong. And then the University of Missouri, which is not in St. Louis, it's in, well, there's two of them. There's one in Raleigh and there's another one, escapes me right now, but they're more in the center of the state. All three of these universities have really great teams, and Seattle, I keep saying Seattle, St. Louis University and the University of Missouri teams, those are new teams, in the last couple of years, and that's the Rex Sinkfield influence.
And
but black can repeat with queen c1 and then rook queen d2 here.
oh, sorry.
Might not have a win, but
Misclicked there. Going back to the game.
Oh, that was it. Josiah was there. That was just.
there's so many interesting games to look at.
And let me just give props here. Ashrita Iswaran got it done against IM Felix Josa and got the win.
Wow.
Got a point for UC Berkeley Team B. And
Wow.
Go Golden Puppy.
Took the piece
golden puppy.
and went to the bank, huh?
and went to the bank, exactly. And back to Stearman here for UC Berkeley A team. me switch the orientation there.
Well, now here's Hosea's a little bit.
He's going to need to work some magic here.
Maybe. I don't know. Oh, I thought there was the exchange, but
So white is a pawn ahead.
yeah.
Interesting, d5. Yeah, I was thinking, but okay, so what's going on here? Just play d5. Looks like a very reasonable move.
Yes, maybe you just take the file pawn to h6. Just still a pawn down. But
Right, and just have to play it. But
Play defense.
right, you know, maybe you got opposite colored bishops as a potential saving grace. That black a pawn, you know, if you ever, you know, there's always that potential to trade on c3 and get a passed a pawn, but that's only going to come into play if the rooks are off the board, probably.
Yeah, I'm going to switch to the board 2 match on because David Brodsky is down to under 10 seconds against Benjamin Gladura.
Ooh, pressing.
And let's not forget that Ipatov game at some point. That was really exciting.
I'll flip to that one next as we keep an eye on the games here. Here we go. Antipov, Ipatov.
Yeah, it looks like black should be fine in that game. I mean, except the exception of the time situation.
so this was the piece sacrifice, but it doesn't look like black got that much for the piece.
No, he is. If you look at black's position, everything looks really great. I mean, the rooks are doubled in the b file. The knight has a beautiful square. The queen looks nice in the diagonal. The problem is, where's that extra piece?
Yeah. Yeah, black is nicely placed apart from the extra piece.
So Antipov for Missouri, if he's able to defend and hold on to that piece, that would be a very important point. And Alexander Lenderman did defeat Cameron Wheeler. This is the final position. Looks like he's gonna win that piece there.
Oh wow! It ended with Queen E4.
Well, it looks like
Or the
Cameron,
rook. Yeah.
Cameron was very low on time.
Yeah.
Hard to work out those tactics.
And with that win by Lenderman, Webster Team A wins their match against UT Dallas.
I wonder in the final position, Queen B8 avoids the loss of a piece, but after Queen H7 check, I mean, he's at a minimum, he's losing the pawn on G7, and probably there's much worse than that that's actually happening in the position.
He could have played on though.
Yeah.
Queen B8. I'm sure he was probably a little discouraged here, but yeah.
So back to the match here. An important match in the Missouri-St. Louis.
Okay, so Queen H7 threatening to capture on B2, King C1.
And black could actually play Rook B2. No, probably not. He'd be down way too much, and it wouldn't even work, I don't think.
Okay, so Queen F5 seems like a nice move. I mean, the idea is to play G4, and then you're on the H5 pawn, and maybe the F2 pawn. And the knight won't really have a good square to go to.
Queen C6 and Bishop A5. Oh, King can go to E7.
You know, it's this time control. You're not so lost when you're a piece down.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I agree. And the thing here is black's position.
Positional compensation.
There is some positional compensation, and his position is very natural, you know, in terms of like.
And everyone, I just have a result by virtue of a victory by FIDE Master Ryan Tagazadi over Grandmaster Ulvi Bajrani, and now a draw with Michael Wang combined with Ashritha's win. UC Berkeley Team B has defeated Texas Rio Grande Valley B team. So they
Wow.
so
I mean, these golden bears are
no
shown
no joke.
off the
Well, that's fantastic.
They are going to be
Wow.
with 6 points, 6 out of 8 going into the final round.
and they're all walk-ons, no scholarship.
Walk-ons, exactly right. Congratulations. And then the A team is still playing, so they have a shot also.
So white's off the material back. Is that, yeah, that looks to be the case, yes?
Yeah.
Good move, and
Yeah, keep the tension.
don't take it.
Black's got annoying moves like pawn G4 or even queen G4, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you wish you weren't up a piece.
Hey, rook a3 looks good, but how about pawn to g4?
Can white give back the piece and play rook a6?
That knight on D5 is a monster.
Right, but I'm wondering, are we threatening to play like rook a6 to go for queen c6?
You know, say pawn to g4, rook a6, pawn takes knight on f3, queen c6, king e7, queen d6, king to e8. That black looks kind of safe.
But look at he's moving his king out of the way.
The prophylaxis to the maxis.
Exactly. Yeah. Keeping g4 in reserve.
Oh, that is a nice defensive move.
Yeah, and offensive maybe with queen h7 too.
Yeah, it looks like, okay, queen to g4.
This is turning into a brawl.
So now black has got one pawn for the piece.
I like the way you said that.
You got to start somewhere. Right?
Yeah, they gotta start somewhere. That's funny.
Should we play something like rook a6? Yep, and now we're angling for queen a3 or queen g3. Oh, annoying little move, okay. So now maybe queen to a3 and force one of the rooks away, but still, black's position's looking very difficult to white to get at. But certainly, maybe something like queen a3 with the idea of rook a7 as well as putting pressure on d6.
Trading
Yeah,
one of the
let's-
pairs would help the defense.
Yeah.
Let me just check in real quick on Josiah Stearman's game.
Running out of time, boy. The Ipatovs and the Antipovs.
And speaking of running out of time, Kapil Chandran is running out of time. This is the Cal Berkeley A team, and 2 of the games are finished. They both were draws, so their fate hangs in Josiah Stearman's result and Ladia Jurasek's result. And here's Stearman.
Okay.
Should be,
I think black's doing okay. He's got rook.
yeah, probably holding, huh? With rook
Oh,
a2.
except for that was no. You just have rook a2 check now.
So maybe it's a draw.
I
Rook
think it's a
a1
draw.
check.
Yeah,
White might be well advised to take that.
yeah.
And no, but maybe Josiah's going to play bishop d6
That would be,
or bishop c7. He's going to repeat.
I think it would be unwise for black to play for a win, but
Right, but now he
What
can
do
play
I
king.
know?
But now rook check king d2 and then play the bishop to b2. Looks very dangerous for white. C pawn looks like it's going to start to run.
And that was a draw. So
Yeah, because king d2, bishop b2. Yeah, he's
the Cal Berkeley A team, the match result rests on this game with Ladia Jurasik, international master, against Dylan Sunjic. And Ladia for Cal Berkeley is black.
wow, another wild looking position.
Great knight on d4, nice pawn on b6, but black's a pawn ahead.
Yes. Well, no, he played that. Oh, because of the check on c6. Okay.
Stop that check. Good move.
Yep, bishop d7 looks, yeah, I agreed. And the bishop is very nice. That situation when you have a bishop like on d7 against a knight on d4, the bishop,
Yeah.
a lot of the knight squares, there's a go term for that. Maybe you know it, Paul, Tsuji?
Tsuji just means like a tactic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I think you're thinking of Mie or M-A. It's where if you play one place, I play the other place. And if you play that place, I play that place.
Oh, okay. Because here,
So it's like corresponding squares kind of thing.
right, and you can see how the bishop on d7 does a good job. And f4 looks like a nicely timed break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although it does let the rook come to f7.
Yeah, I think that was a little premature, something like rook
Oh,
c3, but hard to play
Yeah,
with seconds on the clock.
You have these connected passed pawns, but they're so well blockaded, yeah.
Rook G1 or Rook F7? No, not Rook F7. Whoa.
Did he just play rook?
Conservative.
Yeah. Maybe,
Take the pawn on h3.
yes, definitely.
Yes.
Ah, that's a pretty good move.
That makes sense. Now, do we just check in with the rook, or do we take on h3 and go for more?
Well, let's check and then take. Yeah.
Mhm.
This has gone very well for black. White seems to be
Bishop g4
Yeah.
check,
Red.
Oh
pawn
my
e3.
Rook a1 was just like a criminal move.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely understandable, but just doesn't work here.
Yeah.
Now-
This black wins. Peace now. Or rook,
And
right? Rook C1 and E3 check. It's over.
Yep, you're right, Paul. Berkeley.
there it is. And this is great for Ladia because there were a couple of rounds where he had some tough games, and it looks like he's going to end up being the hero, bringing UC Berkeley to 6 points for the Team A. And Cal will have 2 teams sitting at 6
Wow.
if he's able to convert this.
I think this is winnable. If I'm white, I play king h5 and allow rook h7 mate. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Even the ugly bishop b7 would be good enough to win here. And he
That's-
plays it.
And in the
Now you've got
in the
rook
other
f8.
the other game, this was the ending here of the Antipov Ipatov. We were at this position.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, look at that.
Boom. Yeah.
White remained a piece up.
And got that. So this is the final game of that match between and Benjamin Bach gets the win here. His opponent flagged.
I wonder
Yeah.
how that, yeah.
It's lost, right? The attack on the A pawn, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably, but those pawns on black, it's
So it looks like this match is going to be a draw between St. Louis University A and Missouri. 2-2 was the match.
So it sounds like there's a good chance Webster will be will be comfortably in the lead again. He might be like a full match point up.
And actually, there's an important match going on right now, or a game. Let me pull it up if I can, because it looks like the winner of this takes the match between Webster Team B and Texas Rio Grande Valley's Team A. As the current match score here looks like it is, yep, it's 1.5, 1.5.
So here you got
Prohaska for Webster.
Right, he's a Hungarian grandmaster over 2,600, and he's playing against Bartel, who you've seen before from Poland, who won last round.
Is there enough for White to win this?
Yeah, that's the question. He plays without risk, but how to make progress? That is an interesting move.
He's going to come all the way around to B4.
I guess.
The king on D6 just blocks you.
Yeah. No, I mean, this must be a draw. Does White have to win to tie the match? Is that it, or win it?
Well, it's tied right now at 1.5 each.
Right. So White's trying, but it looks like it's going to be a draw.
And actually, the orientation's off. So this is from White's perspective.
So his plan is to make enough moves so he builds up time on the clock. Then he can think a little bit. See?
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Especially with a 5-second increment.
So where can the knight go to?
Well, it has to check on the light square, but the bishop will be able to stop it. I mean, black can stop knight f5. And even if you got that, the king would just go to c6. You still wouldn't get into c5.
I would like to put that white knight on B4 to tie down the bishop and see if you can battle with the kings on the king side.
That's a great idea. The knight to B4.
But first, put the white king way over on the king side.
Now, do we have to be a little worried about black's king coming to b5 here?
Oh, yes. And this certainly in this position.
He's going to try it.
I would play king c6. I mean, I would...
But then king a4 and knight c6.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Some sort of triangulation here.
This is the last match, the last game of the round.
Prohaska just wrote a very interesting book on chess tactics for Thinkers Publishing.
Prohaska did, huh? Huh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing these days, people writing books and going into teaching earlier. You know, this guy's like, he's like 26, 30s, no slouch at all, but, want to pay the rent and eat on a regular basis, probably, depending on tournament prizes, is not the way to go.
So White plays knight b4.
King b7.
Oh, he's playing an active defense.
Yeah, but he should. Oh, knight b4. He's just going to play king b5.
Yeah.
You've got to play.
He's
king
not going to sit around and wait.
Yeah. It makes sense, and now it takes here.
Well, White must have minimal chances to win, but.
All right, so something like bishop f5 and get the king back.
Yeah, the active defense was good.
And this is like grandmasters, they know how to treat their pieces well.
That's what club players like me don't do. No respect for the pieces.
Disrespect.
It's easy to get caught in this sort of like, move by move sequence. When you look at it
That's
overall,
a funny idea.
your pieces need to breathe, and they need to. Okay, so he stops king to b5, so king b6.
White has minimal winning chances here.
So now bishop back, and notice how he doesn't play bishop d3. He plays bishop e6, so the bishop not only protects the pawn, stops the d pawn from. Not that would be an issue right now, but it's just sort of like best practice.
And White wants to win the c pawn.
Right now we go king to b5.
And Prohaska trying to deliver the match for Webster, doing everything he can.
But if it's drawn, then the match is drawn.
Yes. 1.5.
Idea. Prohaska is on the Webster B team, and he's like over 600 feet.
Right. Well, you know, Lenderman's board 4 on the A team.
Right. Exactly. It shows you how much depth these teams have, or these universities do, I should say.
And I just, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it seems to me Black could play A5 without worry here. I mean,
This also looks good. And now king to b6. What's white got here?
yeah.
The next move will be king to, oh, he's setting his traps. So now he needs to make a bishop move. Yep. King b5 was answered by knight d6. Okay. So now something like bishop to f7.
I predict the computer's going to call a draw soon.
Well, now that's one thing. As opposed to
Excuse me a moment.
over the board play, in this competition, I assume 50 moves without a pawn advance or a piece capture.
The computer.
Just steps in. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the 3-time repetition, John, we've seen that already as well.
Right. Well, you know, that could be a real help, because think about it, if it isn't immediate repetition, like 3 moves in a row, but it's like, say, separated by 10 moves each time, you know, sometimes you don't pick that up when you're playing. Very nice. And now king to c6, d7, king c7. Right?
Yeah, he's probably just looking for the cheapo.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, the knight can't promote the pawn by itself, so...
Yeah, I mean...
Right, now king here, and now what can white do? This is a complete draw.
Yeah.
King d... Also bishop, yeah, king d8 simplest.
Oof.
King c7, and they're going to agree to a draw.
And there it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there were some drawn matches here that so this match was a draw, as was the St. Louis, Missouri. So that's going to help Webster Team A, because they won their match. So they
Right.
they gain a half point.
Yeah, that puts it beyond reach, I think.
Inside.
Or at least, I mean, someone is going to have to win.
Okay, I will call you to him.
We got.
You can mute him.
I'm curious how this leaves the Berkeley teams, because they're going to have 6 points. And then just looking at the standings beforehand, there's going to be quite a few teams with 6 points, and then Webster's going to be there with 7.
I'm rooting for Berkeley.
Which Berkeley team? We don't care. Eat both of them. We're rooting for both of them.
We're rooting for everyone. Now, there's a good chance one of those teams is going to get Webster, so it's going to be on the other team to see if they can make a dent. But who knows? You know, that's why we play the games. Who's to say UC Berkeley won't have that miracle run where they pull off something amazing?
Well, this will be a great challenge for him. But now, Nick, you went to UC Berkeley. I remember you got a degree in physics from... Did you ever play in any intercollegiate team?
I didn't, but Paul reminded us, or you reminded us, Vince McCambridge did. And,
Yes, he did. He did. I remember a photo of him and the other winning team members taken in Sproul Plaza. It was, yeah, Jonathan Frankel works for Google, and Russell Wada, and I think Randy Shane, I think, was on that team as well.
Huh.
Well, guys, fantastic round. We'll wait for the standings to be updated and finalized. But I think Webster put itself in prime position with that amazing win by Jacobian, and and because of the draw results in some of the other matches, there's going to be a ton of teams. But I think Webster's going to be a full point ahead if.
Back to a full point.
Yeah, and they're going to be tough to beat because it's conceivable that they could even lose their final round and then still win because of the tie breaks.
Right, they've played everybody.
But they've played all the top teams, so they're going to have a favorable pairing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's been great having you on, John.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed.
And come back for the last round.
Well, I'll see. I don't know about that. I've got to get out and do some stuff today.
Well, we got Patrick Wolf coming on for the.
Okay, there you
yeah.
go. Two-time
Wow.
U.S. champion, and the author of the. God, I always get Idiot's Guide to Chess, and Jim Eat is the dumb.
Yeah,
Jim Eat is the dummy.
But
yeah.
but the Idiot's Guide has been rebranded to Play Chess Like a Boss.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Somehow I always liked the idea, that Paul was the idiot, and Jim Eat was the dummy. The smartest guys I know, but.
Well, they're so smart, they can label themselves as such and then still profit from the, the selling of the books.
Yeah.
And Steve is not around to write the Morons Guide.
Yes.
So thank you, John, for joining us, and thanks, Paul and Nick. We will be back for the final round of the tournament at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and we will see who wins the tournament. 8 rounds in the books, and before we sign off, and I'll give props at the end too, just a very special shout out to the amazing organizing and tournament directing team that is behind the scenes, making sure everything is smooth, everything is correct. Led by Judith Starre and Glenn Panner and Brian Yang and all the amazing tournament directing staff. Thank you for all you do, because I think the player experience has been fantastic. And Al Lawrence was on the air yesterday saying that I think he said that since 1948 the Pan Am has been going, and it's an honor that we were able to continue to organize this online so that it goes on uninterrupted. So so it's a pleasure, and we'll be back on at 3:00. Thanks, everyone. And
one last thing,
yeah,
if I could, Abel. One last thing to say.
Absolutely.
We mentioned Steve Brandwine, one of the best guys I've ever known. He played in this event for Boston College about 1962 or 63, and he went 6-0.
Is that right? Wow.
Yes.
What a great anecdote.
From Boston College.
Yes.
Huh.
But I think he scored 6-0, but he scored half the points for his team.
What a great story. And again, John, you're just, you know so much. It's amazing.
It's a pleasure to have your history, the historical background behind all of this. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, chess, it just adds so much to the world of chess.
Well, I always like to remember Steve, and people forget. I mean, because he stopped playing in tournaments, at a relatively early age, but he was rated in the top 50 players in the country when he stopped playing around 1966. I mean, he played one tournament in France in the late 60s, but for all intents and purposes, he stopped playing by the time he was 25 years old.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Paul. And
Thank you, Abel.
we will be back right before 3 and wrap up the tournament with the final round, round 9 of the 2020-2021 Pan Am. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, you guys have a good time.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Bye, John.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.